Hi everyone, Stelios here, your host of today's episode of the Ceres podcast and founder and managing director of Ceres. In today's episode, we're talking to Reece Head from Fry Magazine and Fry Top 50 Awards. But it doesn't end there. Reece is also on the President's Committee for NEODA, which organises the National Fish and Chip Day. This episode is brought to you by Ceres Natural Gold Batter Mix, the ultimate secret to nailing that perfect flavour and texture for your fish and chips. With a blend of 2 premium British flours, 2 unique raisin agents, and a natural colouring, our batter mix guarantees that signature golden finish. The Ceres Natural Batter Mix ensures consistent superior results in every batch. Committed to quality, our mix contains no artificial flavours, no artificial colourings or preservatives. Only the best, because we believe that every bite should be exceptional. Proudly made in the UK using British wheat and sustainable plastic-free packaging, also made in the UK. Our mix not only supports the local economy, but also helps reduce the environmental impact. Don't just take my word for it. Murray Watson left a 5-star review on ceres.shop saying, "It's a high-quality, consistent batter that gives me a nice, crispy finish every time." So, visit ceres.shop for next day free delivery across mainland UK, or find our natural gold batter mix at your favourite wholesaler. Stay connected with what we're up to at Ceres by following us on social media and joining our mailing list. The link will be in the episode show notes. And also feel free to share your thoughts and suggestions in the Ceres podcast discussion group on Facebook. If you're enjoying the show, share it with your friends on social media. If you like the episode, then chances are your friends in the industry will like it too. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Your feedback helps us grow and improve. And thanks for tuning in, and let's keep the conversation going, and I hope you enjoy this conversation with Reece Head from Fry. Hi Reece, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Oh, cheers, Stel. Yeah, delighted to be on. I don't know why it took so long, really.
That is my fault. It is my fault. But, you know, it sounds very clear in your east wing. Is that where you are, in the east wing of your palatial mansion?
Yeah, we're getting there, mate. We're getting there. Just got to up my advertising rates and media rates and sell more fish and chips. You know how it is.
Oh, I thought you were going to do a pitch.
Tough out there.
I thought you were going to pitch me then and say, look, come on, hurry up, give me your money.
Well, I was getting round to that, but I suppose we've got a bit of time yet, haven't we? So don't worry.
You're going to sell by not selling. Is that what you're going to do?
Exactly. Yeah. That's the best way, mate.
So, for those that don't know you, Reece, because you keep yourself in the shadows of the industry, the underbelly of the industry, you a half owner, I take it, or involved with Fry Magazine. Is that right?
It is, yeah. So, there's the Fry Magazine and the media side, which is really it is my day-to-day running and my day-to-day basis of job. It's quite funny when you just mentioned about. You lurk in the shadows. I've actually had somebody come up to me before and see me at various industry events and bits and pieces walking around and actually ask me what I do. So why are you at all these events? How come you get tickets for this and, play golf at KFE and do other things? And he had no idea what I actually did until I actually explained it.
I guess, you don't have you have a prominent role within the industry, but it's not really outwardly facing. Your photo isn't on everything. It isn't about you.
Try not to.
No, yeah, it isn't about you.
I try not to.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I like to be in places and engage with people, but I'm not Fry Magazine.
Yeah.
And it's not Reece Magazine. It is Fry Magazine for the industry. And although I of course like to get everywhere and be everywhere, I don't post myself everywhere.
Yeah. Well, and if you are lurking in the shadows, deeper behind those shadows is your a guy that in 20 years, I've been in this industry since I was 17 officially, and I've never met Andy Pybus once in my life. Not once.
Really?
No, not once. I wouldn't know. Go on.
You're lucky.
If he was standing in front of me, like, I would not know who he was. Like, and
right.
Yeah. So then, maybe he's the lucky one that he's never met me. So who knows? But
yeah, it goes both ways. But look, yeah, I mean, Andy did have. He's been in media and he's gone into other areas as well in food service magazine. He was a director of H2O, which didn't work out. So he sort of went off on his own path while still working with me, which was kind of great for me because I get to do all my own thing, make my own decisions overall. And he's behind there, of course, keeping a check, running the accounts, and really giving back some valued information and insight, seeing it from a step back. And it actually works sometimes because sometimes you can be that engrossed in your own business and what you're doing on a day-to-day, Stelios, that you actually lose sight of a bigger picture. And it's not through lack of hard work or anything like that, but sometimes you can find yourself going down a wrong path or worrying about the wrong things. And I think that applies to fish and chip shop owners as well, which is why I think it's such a great community in a way that when you can step back and get advice from somebody else that doesn't actually own that business. So you can take their piece of advice on board and run with it, but they can look at it from an outsider looking in going, I've kind of been there or I've seen that. How about going this way? Because sometimes you don't know what's going outside your own four walls, or you're that engrossed or firefighting at times in a business that an outsider coming in and going, well, we're going off piste here a little bit. We need to change some things. And it's really worked well for Andy and I, really works well.
Yeah. Well, partnerships are hard, but, if you've been doing it for as long as you have, you must have learned to sort of do it well.
Of course. I mean, we can have our firefighting. He'll come in and discuss something and look to change something, and I'll have to push back and say, I think that's a little bit too far. But I have to say, as nervous as I am with some of the decisions he's made, he's pretty much got every call right.
Oh, really? Okay.
Over the years, he's got just sort of come back in, and we've had to row back on a few things, but overall, I can't fault our relationship, if I'm honest. It has really worked. And going back to it, he's got total trust in me. And, I do the day-to-day running. I make my own day-to-day decisions. And the partnership, and that works.
Yeah, well, that's it.
And I think you've got to be lucky. And the other thing you've got to have is trust.
Yeah.
So he's got to trust me to leave me alone, and I've got to trust him that the finances are in order and the accounts, and that, because I'll be totally honest, I couldn't tell you to the nearest penny, or to the nearest £1,000 what we've got in the company account. I don't even know.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of level of trust, I think, that works. I put in my expenses and they get paid. There's no question, genuine expenses, of course, still, and flight here, do that there. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's that many millions in your account. You wouldn't know what it is to the penny anyway. Because I know
I wouldn't, mate. Yeah. If there is, I should be in that West Wing by now.
No, but so how did you get into the industry? Because I remember you telling me once, and it wasn't as sort of, you started off somewhere else and you made sort of a switch over. So give us a bit of backstory there, Reece.
Yeah. When I left college, I became an apprentice as a graphic designer, and I worked at an agency in Hove, in Sussex. And we were a small team, and I worked there for 7 or 8 years. And this is when the change from desktop publishing as it was went across into Quark Express, Adobe Illustrator, and Photoshop and stuff like that. So Apple Macs come in. Now, the hours that we had to put in studio to get stuff done and the deadlines, they just changed rapidly. And I was working a lot and tied to my studio, and I really wanted to be out and about as an account manager. The only way to do that was to actually leave and sidestep and go to a different company, which I did. So I was still in graphic design, and then I moved to a printers. Whilst selling print, I got pulled in by a company that asked me if I fancied doing advertising sales on a magazine. And I thought, well, here's a sidestep, here's a chance to move on. And then it was a magazine in the paint industry. Didn't last. After 12 months, I said, look, I'm sorry, this isn't the right media position for you, and the magazine isn't quite working. We'll let you go. And then I ended up on a magazine called Fast Food and Frying Operator, if you remember. And this is back in sort of 2001. At the time, there was that magazine in the trade, along with Fish and Chips and Fast Food. And, that was me doing advertising sales on a fish and chip magazine.
Was Fast Food and Frying Operator what became Keith Dixon's?
No. This is where the story is.
Oh, okay.
It was us, Fast Food and Frying Operator.
Yeah.
And then Keith Dixon's come in, which was called the Fryer and Fast Food.
Yeah. Okay.
So that became the third. So Keith Dixon's has come in. I'm working for a publishing house in Horsham. And then at the time, I think DMG Media owned Fish and Chips and Fast Food.
Yeah.
So those were the three. And of course, the Fish Fires Review. Yeah. So that was how it was stacked at that time. Well, the Fryer and Fast Food then become what's now Chippy Chat.
Yeah.
In between with Mark purchasing that when he launched the online forum.
That's it.
So that's how that sort of works. And all that timeline has happened between about 2002 and probably about 2006 or 7, I think. Then we changed the name. So we evolved. It was a lot of F's, wasn't it? It was Fast Food and Frying Operator. Then we turned it to Frying Operator, FO.
Yeah.
And then there was still the Fryer and Fast Food, which was the Triple F. And then there was the N Triple F. And in the end, we just said, right, scrap this. We did Fry Monthly.
Yeah.
That was run for 3 years. And in 2013, we rebranded again to Fry Magazine. And actually, that was the same year that we launched our Fry Awards.
Damn. So, did you have anything to do with... Did you have any other pit stops before you got into digital or at least media business? Like, because I heard a story that you had some involvement with Frying Range as well. Or is that, have I got you mixed up with someone else?
No, I think you got me mixed up with Tony Ropke.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Our Tony Ropke, he was, this is going back again, he was the original sales manager on Fish and Chips and Fast Food at DMG Business Media in the 90s.
Oh, I see.
He then split off to another publishing house to launch a rival magazine, which was the Fast Food and Frying Operator. So he left and split off from DMG Business Media. Heather Boxall, I think that was her name, was the editor of Fish and Chips and Fast Food. She left at the same time. So the two key personnel, say me and Helen, now split off and create another magazine.
Wow. So
that's how that one was born.
It's fair to say that talking to these magazines, which a lot of them, you know, that sort of landscape has totally shifted, because in the 90s, these would have been really large assets, you know, very profitable, I'd imagine. You know, it was a physical asset that, you know, a magazine, there was nothing better than probably owning a magazine back then. You know, now, like, we fast forward that, you know, everything's sort of gone digital, and we're going to talk about this moving forward, but everyone's had to be hot on their heels, really, haven't they?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's been I mean, I had some of the original paperwork and books from back in the 1990s, and I remember half pages were selling for 1,500 quid.
Wow.
This is in 1990 something. So these books were going to press. They only published 8 times a year at the time, I think that was. And this book was going to press with 25 to 40 grand of revenue per issue. I mean, it's astronomical because looking at it. But that's why it was owned by the Daily Mail Group at the time and highly profitable. And that was the only route to market. So that's why they were successful, and that's why companies were using them.
And I guess pre-digital, how were the likes of, the big oil companies that say, like, I'm just going to choose Frymax as an example. How were they going to get to the customer? Because, there wasn't really a way. There wasn't social media and so on. It was print only.
Yes, it was. It was print only, or through print and your wholesaler.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, the wholesaler side is, of course, still there and very important.
Of course,
but the connection between and marketing to shops now can be done a lot differently, and the digital age is upon us, and it was fast tracked for us. We identified it. We were starting to move in 2019, so we pulled together my 2020 media pack just before everything changed. But in end of 2019, our media pack, we were just starting to put on analytics, website visits, unique visitors. We'd just opened up Instagram account. I think we had 300 or 400. Our Facebook, we were publishing it as 1,100 and something at the time. Then we had LinkedIn, it was a couple of hundred. And we were then also had our digital, we did have a digital magazine then. And in my media pack, I published, it was just under 5,000 visitors viewing it per month. And that was all there to see. Well, March 2020, everything changed for good. The thirst for online content went mad. I mean, yourself, the legislation and that for shops was changing daily after lockdown, wasn't it? What you can do, what you can't do. And we saw a huge uptick in information. And to be fair, we stayed at the forefront of it. I mean, we had suppliers sharing what we were finding out and publishing, because we were going searching for the government, the official government guidelines, and then publishing that out to the shops as quickly as we could. You couldn't wait a month then.
No.
In print. It had to be done instant, daily, and we noticed that the visitors to our website was constant because everybody was on their phone searching for the idea, the information. What can I do? How do I get my business up and running? How do I do it that way? So what we noticed then was a huge spike in digital views, followings, and then we moved on from there really to where we are now, which is what we got, 2,700 followers on Facebook, which is a big increase in 3 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
100 and something percent. We've gone to 2,000 plus on Instagram. Our website, I was just looking at analytics that I put in my 2020 media pack. We were doing 2,200 visitors a month unique. I've just pulled up my last 3 months and it's 4,508 a month.
It's fair to say that although I think of Fry Magazine as Fry Magazine, it is more Fry Online now, isn't it? The magazine is one component of a digital business. Is that right?
Yes, it is. I mean, the pivot, that was when we recognised there was a huge thirst for online and the world had changed forever type thing. So, and the content you can get over printed matter out quickly in real time, analytical reach, all trackable, is just how we saw it going and how our new business model was. We actually didn't stop printing until September 2022, as in a full monthly magazine. It was quite a nice send-off because we actually put the Queen on the front cover for that month, and that was our last issue. What had pushed that, and we didn't. Again, circumstances sometimes force businesses to make changes, and then once you make the change, you've realised that maybe you should have made it a little bit before. But the NFFF was the first during COVID to change and move away from their printed. We stayed with it, but inflation took it beyond a point where I could actually be honest to my suppliers. The paper, and shops will know this from fish, and you'll know it from wheat and grain and transport, all the other things that go into making components of a business up off your bottom line. But we were getting, our paper price was changing monthly. You couldn't secure paper for 3 months, 6 months in advance. You couldn't even secure it a week in advance. You know, you'd go to buy a paper, it's like, oh, we haven't got that, we can't get that stock at the moment, but we can get this one, which is almost identical. Oh yeah, but this one's £600 more. It's the same paper you just told me. And then what happened was printers and prices went up, inks went up, electricity, and all the things that goes into producing a magazine, up. And we thought, these costs are spiralling out of control. We've got two choices. Pivot our business model a little bit, which we've been in the process of doing anyway, or continue to reduce a magazine down to a small number that it wasn't really fair on the supplier on print and postage. So we made the decision to pivot the business,
I guess,
and be honest and transparent. And what that does give us, it does allow us to produce analytical reports for reach, content, banner clicks, and all the things which is trackable and traceable that we can go back to do, and we're the only people that do that.
Do you think, like, one of the downsides historically, this is with the trade magazines, is that they're all free? Like, they're all free to the consumer. They just get delivered, they come to their door, and there's never really been a buy-in or a cost to the readers. Obviously, it's all advertisement-led, which is fine, obviously. But if you look at the likes of the caterer, and I don't understand the difference, and maybe you can break this down for me, why is it they can charge, and that yet they're still dealing with trade-based? So, again, it's all, I guess, business people, restaurateurs that are using that service. Why is it that they managed to sort of tack on a cost, whereas in our industry, the 4 trade magazines never did?
That is a great question. And I wish I had the answer, because if I had the answer, I would have applied a price to it and sent it to people. You know, it was. We actually tried it in different ways to look to do it as a value. So when we had when we were printing and posting to 5,000, and the market is say 10,000, we tried insert cards over the top. This could be your last issue, to subscribe and guarantee it every month. Please do this XX. We got a handful. So they guaranteed it every month. So they got their value because the others were still on rotation. But there wasn't the uptake that you would think there was. Maybe these other companies have actual subscription sales teams, which I think some companies do, where they will ring up shops and look to sell a subscription at a cost.
Yeah.
And look to do it that way to build it up. But yes, it's just nobody's ever managed it in our industry. And the thing is, the magazines have got a value, but yes, just finding
I think you are
the chip shop owner.
Well, you are delivering value to people, in my opinion. When I get the trade magazine, I read it, I skim through, and I think, well, you know what, that's interesting. I think one thing that always annoyed me as a reader, and I think is just where it's full of press releases. One thing I found with the Fry magazine, the original, let's say a few years ago before it ended, or at least pivoted, I found that there was written content, like original written content, and I quite liked that. I thought that was good. But I think I wouldn't want to pay good money or any money, for a magazine that was just full of copy and pasting, if that makes sense. Because then, what's the point?
Yeah, sure.
But
that's something we did pride ourselves on. Original content. We seek out stories. We do case studies with shops. We've got great relationships with shops. If we write a feature, we look to have it a balance between supplier driven. So you've got a new product, it does this, it does that, and shop driven, their experience of getting around a problem or using a particular piece of equipment or a trend they've got in the shop. So we have been quite unique in the industry in that kind of content, and Helen's done a great job with that. And we're at a point where we can ring up plenty of shops and suppliers and just get an outlook and create something. You never know when you're going to pick up the phone to somebody and they've just had something happen that week or in the last month. And they're quite happy to chat to you, talk you through, and you get published. And then it becomes quite handy or useful information for the next fryer.
And I guess today also, social media, from your point of view, helps you find the story too. Because, if someone reports something or posts something on their social media that's outrageous or unique, let's say, and has the potential to teach someone else in the industry something, you guys are probably on it quite fast nowadays, and you can create a story quite fast. And also, being a digital media asset, you can post it quite fast as well. Whereas you don't have to wait for that print cycle anymore,
No, I mean, there's the two sides of it. With the print cycle, it is quite prohibitive. So, in the old ways of doing it, it was you had a framework for your features, and it might be fish, batter, hot drinks, cold drinks, ice cream, frying ranges, whatever it might be, and you had to put them into set months, and then you would adhere to that to get it pulled in, written. You'd have to fit it into a certain area. So I've got to cut that bit out there, and that picture's got to be made smaller because it has to fit into a pagination. And then you used to send it off to print. It used to get mailed, it lands, and then you repeat the cycle the month after. So for me, really what my job entailed there was selling advertising space within marketing plans, and then asking Helen, an editor, to pull the features together and the content and, can you include him, or he sent this in or whatever. And that was pretty much my job. It's quite prohibitive. You had to reduce content down to fit within pagination, as I said. Secondly, you had to reach strict deadlines. And the third thing is some people had products and said, when's your cold drinks feature? And I'd say, we're doing that in May. They go, sorry, I don't bring out my new drink to June. And I thought, well, you can still give it to us and we'll still publish it in June, So it made the way they were thinking, I need to fit in with that, so I'll look elsewhere, because if I'm not in a drinks feature, it's of no interest to somebody. So that was the old way of working.
Yeah.
The new way is a lot harder because you don't kind of switch off, because you're constantly creating content. You're constantly looking to promote and push stuff. And there isn't I've closed, I've got a few days off now, breathing space, because that magazine's going to land and everybody's going to open it, read it, and then I'll wait for my feedback on it.
Yeah.
So we've had to evolve the way we work. In saying that, we have still got the digital magazine, and we do still pull together all the information like that. But that's almost, it's not a sideshow, but it's part of the overall business.
Is that because I should know this, but I don't. But is that like the old-fashioned magazine that is just digital, so you swipe on the computer or something?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So we'll send out the link to the digital magazine. We will create a digital advert for everybody that's in there with a link directly to their page. Now, what is good about the digital side is you can embed video content and stuff. So that's advantageous. You can also put live links to websites. So you do have this tool to you. Now, interestingly, going back to the digital side, we had, what was we 2019? About 5,000 digital views. My last issue was 9,800 individual visitors have come to that magazine.
Wow. It's pretty...
Yeah, 9,008. So that is double 2019.
Yeah.
However, in amongst all of this, we did see a need to be a hybrid. And at the moment, we're producing 2 Premier Partners Buyers Guides a year.
Yeah.
Now, these are both printed. But with this print, we actually give you the print and post. This is for the supplier.
Yeah.
So if I say I'm going to mail 5,000, I mail 5,000.
Yeah.
So it goes back to I'm providing you analytics to justify your marketing spend. So you've got the monthly marketing that we do for you, social media, web, digital magazine, banners on our website as part of your package. As a supplier, this is. And then twice a year, we'll produce a printed synopsis, something that's worth keeping with all the latest products, listings, bit of a diary in there for what's going on. And we've got the next one coming out next month.
Yeah.
So we're a hybrid. We sort of cover all angles.
And I guess now everyone's got to be in a sort of hybrid, though, don't they? There's no such thing as, like, you can't just operate in a vacuum. Or, I'm trying to think, well, the NFFF they've stopped their magazine as well, haven't they? And they've got what they call the Fish Fries Review app. And again, I guess that's just the blog format. And I don't see a lot of activity there. So they're not producing as much content as they would have had to when it was a physical magazine, because I guess you couldn't send out an empty magazine, so you'd be forced to put in different stories, I guess, or press releases. Whereas, when you've got an online system only, you can just not produce as much at all. So
yeah, we've tended though. We've had enough content for both.
Yeah,
because of the way we were working originally with, as you identified, unique stories, unique case studies, stuff that nobody else had or covered. We've always done that, so
we
just kept that going.
You're quite an entrepreneurial person, and I guess Andy must be too. Why is it you never went to someone like NFFF and said, look, put your magazine to one side, and we'll just put 8 pages, for example, or 6 pages of NFFF news, and we'll put that in our magazine, and that way they can still have like their section going out, and it's in a different magazine. Or
we did approach that with we have approached that before with 2 different presidents, but timings weren't right, or it wasn't right for their membership, and when it was put to the board, it was deemed not the way forward they wanted to take. But that has been an idea of ours that we have pushed forward. We've had 2 meetings based on that, but never quite come to fruition.
Yeah,
if there maybe at some point there might be an opportunity to do something, but of course we've now kind of moved away a little bit. So it'd have to be to include the stuff on the membership and the benefits of maybe the FQA and things like that in twice a year. But maybe there is something to be done. I hadn't really thought of it. You've just brought that back to my attention.
Well, I'm good at some things. I'm good at dragging up old things. So moving forward, then you mentioned that you then started the Fry Awards. How did that come about? Give us an idea when it started and the idea behind it.
Okay, well, the Fish and Chip Awards, which were run by Seafish, I've been fortunate enough to build up enough credit, I suppose is the right word, to actually become part of the judging process. And I can't remember who's been in the rooms, but we used to have a meeting. Nicky used to arrange a meeting in Birmingham, and it was all the entrants for the various regions would be in there, and it was paperwork all on the tables, and there'd be previous winners there. There would be suppliers there. There would be the likes of myself, media there, and we split off into groups, and we'd do the judging process on the tables. Now, I think it was 10 regions, wasn't it? 10 regional winners back in 2000 up to the 2018-ish, 12 when we decided to do ours.
Yeah.
So there was 10 regions. The regions went on the table. Of course, some regions were stronger than others and some were weaker. So you might have 15 entries in one region and only 6 in another. But there might be 3 of those 6 in another that were stronger than the best of the 15 in the other, quality-wise, if you looked at the paperwork. So what I identified when we were in here is we weren't actually getting, when you were reducing to get to the 10 best in the region, they weren't the 10 best in the country because of regional differences and split. So to take a really good obvious example, going back to entries then, if you had Fusco's, Quayside and Coleman's up in that northeast region, only one of those at the time could go through. So you had a gatekeeper, when arguably both should have gone through based on they were better than most of what was in the other regions that were winning. So that was problem number one. And then I did hear further down that some shops wouldn't enter it if they knew someone else in that region was already entering it. So you had perfectly good fish and chip shops and businesses that wouldn't enter because of a gatekeeper. That was also done on paperwork, and there was some paperwork which is absolutely brilliant, and some which clearly hadn't had much thought go into it, or the person who was doing it may have been a great fryer, run a nice little operation, do good fish and chips, but they simply weren't marketeers to be able to put that forward. I mean, there was even a point towards the end, I think marketing companies were introduced to create better entries. So when I've looked at all this, we just simply went away and come up with a competition that was mystery dined only, no paperwork, no back of house visit. You are simply judged on your food, customer experience, and we got rid of regions. And what that gave you was, didn't matter what ever size or turnover of shop you had a chance of being in our 50 best. Because you could have, in effect, you could have 2 shops in the same town. If they both entered and they come in the top 50 scores, they were in the 50 best. And it just opened up a whole new level of businesses that could, in fact, be award winners. And that's how it was born out originally. And yeah, we judged through end of 2012, and we announced our first winners in 2013. as the 50 best takeaways.
There was a little outrage back then, weren't there, at the time? Like, I think a lot of people saw it as that maybe the not NFFF, because that wasn't, it's now the NFFF awards, but the Seafish awards were almost sacred. Nothing could come close to them. And then you guys did.
Sure.
And then, you know, how long did it sort of take for that sentiment? How did you deal with it at the time? Like, how are you delivering this message to potential partners who were probably upset at the time?
Yeah, it was quite difficult. There was a little bit of kickback. Like there is sometimes with a bit of change. There was kickback. We said, look, we're not competing. This is offering something different. You've got your regions, which is great. You know, that works because you get the media in each area. You've got the big gala dinner. That's great. This isn't that. This is for everybody. It's just done on a totally different level. Judging process. We didn't copy anything from the model.
So completely fresh.
No, yeah. Sorry?
Completely fresh.
It was completely fresh. We went mystery dining from day one. You fill in one form, name, address, shop name, email, enter. That was it.
Yeah.
And then we'll mystery dine you. Now, what has... Going back to the point, that the first thing I said, there was a little bit of kickback. I mean, for starters, there was a conflict of interest, so I never judged on the Fish and Chip Awards, Seafish Awards again, which was fine, and I understood that. Then there was a few suppliers at the beginning that didn't quite agree with it, but kept at arm's length. But then, since then, they've come back and said, this is brilliant. What happened was their customers, they saw some of their customers in it and winning it. Ones that they'd never seen enter the Fish and Chip Awards at the time under Seafish. So they're seeing their customers coming in and going, my business is up 10%. This has been brilliant. Look at the press I've got. So when suppliers start seeing that, and you times that by over 50 shops, it's got to be doing good for the industry.
Yeah, and I guess sometimes just doing your thing, like from 2012, coming back in 13, 14, 15, 16, just coming back and just becoming part of the fabric. Once you start doing that, people probably think, well, actually, they're doing all right. And, you know, pair that with what you just said as well. So I think that's what probably gives you validation to some degree.
Yeah, and we don't involve any suppliers. So under the Seafish, they had to get 25, 30 suppliers in there, or industry professionals, to look through paperwork that had to be collated and sent in, and then to be judged, then to move on to the next stage. And then they were mystery dining, because I actually did that with Fred Capel, went round the 10 best restaurants, which was brilliant. But they had to pull all that together.
Yeah.
For me, it was entered onto a system. We sent it to an independent mystery dining company that had no allegiance with suppliers or anything like that, and away it went. It was a simplified model.
Yeah.
Which has evolved a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Because the first time we did 50 best takeaways, and we stopped it on 50. But we had that many entrants, we had to re-mystery dine shops.
Okay.
Because we were looking to get it down to 50 exact. That was a headache, Stelios. And because it was a headache, we thought, why are we trying to catch shops out instead of catch them in?
Yeah.
Why don't we make it the 50 best takeaways? Let's just use our 50 best scores. So if 2 or 3 shops tie on the same score, the cut-off point, 93%, 96%, whatever it is, let them be in the 50 best. We want to catch them in, not out. It's better for the industry. It's better for them. You know, why miss out on... There has to be a cut-off point, but if that cut-off point is 95% and there's 57 shops in there, That's 57 shops in our 50 best. So we did that from year 2. That made life a lot easier.
Yeah.
And the third thing we do, which is totally unique as well, we invite feedback on their mystery dining reports, which are totally transparent because we send them to them. We invite feedback on those reports, and if there is, and we take on board if they think the shop thinks there's something been missed, if they think something hasn't been judged quite correctly, we will look at that. We will go back to the company and we'll ask them why they come up with that, or what this is what the shop said. Is that the case? And I've adjusted some reports. Now, of course, it's difficult to do it on the actual food because it's been consumed. In fact, you can't change anything on that. But if somebody says, we do have a payment service and here's a picture of it, they've obviously missed it, or we do have an online ordering service, but our website was down that night, I'll give them the point because that website's going to be up the other 364 days a year. So little things like that, we're happy to take a look at. Going back to what I said, we're looking to catch people in rather than out.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think is really good and it is the fact that you would now also charge for it. And I think that probably would have also got you some steam back in the day. So what were the decisions behind adding a charge to it? Because I personally think I don't see the issue with that. You know, I've told Andrew Crook before that I think they should charge for it as well. Like as a, you know, at least it covers some of the admin fees. So, you know, what was the decision process behind you guys charging for it?
The decision behind that was when it was free, we had so many shops entering that we were actually doing it for nothing.
Okay.
It was the time issue. So when you're a victim of your own success, which that was, we offered it for free, and the amount of shops that entered it to begin with, it was eating up everything and all our time. And then the price of food went up because within that, there's the mystery dining itself, and then you've got the food on top.
Of course.
Well, the food bills nowadays, if it's in a restaurant, that's going to be £25 to £30 for 2 people, minimum, if that's the sit-down paper. And then a takeaway now, because the person who's going there won't just have fish and chips, they will have mushy peas and a curry and a can of drink as well. They're having the full service. Well, there's your £15-16. So, and we have to have we get a photograph of the receipt, and that's put on the report as well to prove it that on their time of delivery and everything like that. So, yes, it came about that we've got to charge a nominal fee. With that, though, with charging a nominal fee, we also then moved to 2 mystery dines for takeaway. So it also moved it up a notch because I know you can say you've got to get it right every time, but there are mitigating circumstances where a business doesn't have their best fryer in on a Wednesday night, or something happens, or 2 pans went down when the person visited, you know, and we've heard every story. How much of it's true or whatever, you know, we have to take that at face value.
I think.
So what we did is we added in a second mystery dine report done at a different day, different time, and then we add the 2 together. So it's a more robust competition now because of it, I believe.
Yeah, and I guess there's always, you know, we're going to talk about the challenges of making it robust, but I think one of the weak arguments I always find for people that are not in favour of paying is, oh, well, people will just say you're paying for an award. And I've always found that this is a very weak argument because you're not paying for the award, you're paying to enter, and you're paying for the administration side of it. You know, there is costs associated. And I think, again, because if it was true that if you're paying for an award, then why isn't everyone entering getting the award? You follow me?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're quite right. You're paying for a service. I mean, look at the value of a potential mystery dine. People within their own businesses, a lot of the time, we said it before, you're sort of focused on your own business, you're doing your thing. A customer coming in, and bearing in mind these customers are normal, regular people, and I think this works in our favour. They're not industry experts, but nor are your customers. Your customers that come through the door, that is their experience of your food, your staff, your environment on that particular day. Now, there is some subjectivity in there, we get that. But that's always going to happen. You can't get around that. There are some people who are tougher than others. Me and you can go into a restaurant, we could sit down, eat the same meal, and your view on it will be slightly different to mine.
Yeah.
Most of it might be identical, but there will be something that we find indifference to report on.
Yeah.
And that's the same with our competition.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, what we're not doing is taking the money, not going to give you a report back, and then, after that, you should be able to get from that report something that maybe just a tiny nugget of information that can help your business.
Yeah.
Because we give that back with total transparency, you're getting something. You're not entering and just looking to get into award winners. There is a value to that. I mean, it's an example from years ago. There was a shop in Scotland who didn't actually he entered our awards, he didn't get in. Because of the depth and detail on the report, he picked up on the back end of, on some criteria, because within the report, there's different areas, and there's also an area for notes. So people can put in about the service, what was happening, and they can put that into the report. On the payment question, there was a comment made or written that it took a little bit longer than they thought it would, as the member of staff proceeded to add up the amount in his head before giving me the total. There was just a comment at the bottom. The shop owner rang me and went, "Look, I haven't got in, but I'm reading my report here. Could you clarify that kind of happens?" He said, "Because I've got an EPOS till here. It should just be getting touched and everything logged." And it turns out, because he came back to me and said, "Can I use your report in a court of law?" Mm-hmm. He had a member of staff and he couldn't work out because he had a couple of shops and different shift times, but he was losing hundreds of pounds a week. And he couldn't quite work out or put his finger on where this money was going. And what a staff member was doing was not putting things through the till and pocketing the money. So inadvertently, he didn't get in our Fry Awards, but he actually caught a dishonest staff member, and it saved him a lot of money and a headache because he knew there was a problem, but he couldn't identify it.
Yeah, probably saved his business. No.
Yeah, so there's different things that do come out of it. And there's other shops that have taken positive out of it, use that they got 100% across the food, and then use that mystery dining report here, put the snapshot of the bit where they got 100%. Great food, great service, and used it that way. So there's a wider view that can be used.
How do you balance? Every year you must get loads of feedback. So how do you balance making the competition more robust without making the barrier to entry too high, so people then don't fill out the paperwork and don't carry on or don't get bored? There must be a balance to strike.
Yes, there is, because the more content or detail you put in, the harder it is also for the mystery diner. Because if you think of them as a snapshot, they can walk into a shop and, depending on how busy it is, or if the food is cooked to order, they might only have a window of 1 minute 30.
Yeah.
If the food's cooked to order and it's quite busy, they've got a window that they could observe in for maybe 6, 12, 15 minutes, depending on depends on how busy it is or how the operation works. So that's always quite difficult. Some of the questions can be are led where they can do something before. So they can check if they've got a social media active account. They can check whether they offer online ordering. They can check whether they do delivery. So some of the report stuff, that can be done pre the visit. But yeah, I mean, we had to change the report, even though we still put a competition together in 2020, because we did run it, because takeaways could stay open in COVID.
Yeah.
It was online ordering and click and collect, because at the time people couldn't go in the shops. So there was a little switch there, but we've kept in the can you order online and can you do click and collect? But there isn't too much more we can move with it. Now, we'll always get the operators that go, look, we don't have name badges. And I get that. But if you don't have name badges, but all the rest, you're still going to get in. Yeah? There's other shops, I can't physically cook to order on a Friday night when they come in. Fine, but that was, some shops do, and that was only one mark. So that isn't going to stop you getting in.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't do delivery, but we do all the others. Fine, that's 1 point. Do all the others well, you're still going to get in. So, but to us, we have to have a set criteria as a competition. And that criteria is, of course, all relevant. We don't ask stuff that isn't unrelevant. But yeah, we're probably at the maximum we can do to make it robust, but also still workable for shops.
That makes sense. Well, I guess you've got to have a line somewhere. You can't do everything. Otherwise, it starts to become, like you say, very top-heavy, doesn't it?
Yeah, and this is all customer-facing. We haven't gone out the back. We're not asking them to open up the doors. You know, it's all customer facing for their experience and their view. Unfortunately, you know, views do differ.
Yeah.
And you can get a different person on a different day, and you will get a different report.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'll give the analogy of a boxing fight, a world heavyweight title worth 100 million quid.
Yeah.
You'll have 3 judges sitting ringside watching it live, and you'll get a split decision.
Yeah.
2 saw it differently to 1. So that's just subjectivity, and
that's always going to. That's
just the way it is.
It's always going to exist. And there's no such thing as the perfect competition, is there? Let's face it.
Yeah, but look, I'm delighted, and I'll be honest. I think our last winners that we've just announced is probably one of the strongest yet. You know, when I look through the shop, and there's some great operators out there, and there's some, you know, great ones that, you know, didn't get in as well. And the other thing with us, if you don't get in, nobody knows because you enter anonymously, which is also a reason why a lot of shops enter.
Yeah.
They get their report back. Nobody knows who's entered. So there's no negative publicity if a shop in your town gets in and you don't. None of the suppliers know. So there's no feedback. If you want to take it up with us, we'll look into it. And it's between us and you. And that's another thing that really attracts people to our competition, I think. And if you just look at the, I think it's the restaurants, this year's restaurants, we had 3 in Whitby alone.
Yeah.
And they're all great shops. Trenchers, Quayside, Magpie. They're all on a 100-metre strip.
Yeah.
And they've all got the same opportunity. There's no gatekeeper. And, yeah, that just shows it works.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's some good things going on there for sure. Moving on, you sit on the President's Committee for NEODA. And so I thought whilst we've got you on, I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about National Fish and Chip Day.
Yeah, sure.
So how did that come about? Let's start there first, because, let's start right at the beginning.
Well, National Fish and Chip Day is in its 9th year, believe it or not, this year. It was brought up and mentioned at one of the Fish and Chip Awards. Helen then spoke to me about it, and I can't remember who she spoke to. It was mentioned as a potential day, but nothing had been done about it. I think someone had sat on it for a while, and nothing had been done about it. And I thought this has got to be a goer for the industry. So I said, right, we're going to do this. It's been mentioned in conversation. We're going to go and do this. So when I suggested that, I then, because I'm a member of Neoda, along with many key suppliers in the trade, and yes, it was one of those things that people have asked me, why didn't you keep it for yourself? But for me, it wasn't something to be used for money, to put a monetary value to it. I know I'm going to sit here, that sounds really, really strange, but it was bigger than me. It goes back to the same thing, me being the front of something. It was bigger than me. This weren't about me. This was about, can we do something really positive for brand fish and chips? Because the biggest problem fish and chips has had ever, and it's its strength as well as its weakness, is we're all individual shopkeepers pretty much. And we're all in regions with little regional differences and bits like that. And there is no collective brand. This kind of changes that for fish and chips. This is the one opportunity where collectively we can push fish and chips to the forefront of people's minds as an awareness day. What I will add, though, is it is an overall fish and chip awareness day for a consumer. You know, we're looking to embrace, all formats of the dish. So if a family do want to go to the supermarket, buy fish and chips and cook it at home, to me that's a win. You're not going to stop that, and that's good. It's good to get the pubs involved. We've had celebrity chefs doing it, restaurant chains. On the day as an awareness day, I think it really works. What it isn't is a national fish and chip shop day. And I want it to work for fish and chip shops more than anyone. I'd love to see their turnover increased and have the busiest day of their lives. And I know that isn't always the case. And it's well publicised that isn't always the case. But that isn't what the day is about overall.
So it's
about awareness of fish and chips.
So in some ways, that's similar to like Seafish's objective back in the day, which is, Seafish's objective was broadly for more people to eat seafood, and then for the Fish and Chip Awards was for more people to get involved with fish and chips to bring awareness to seafood. So what you're sort of saying is the objective here isn't for fish and chip shops to sell more fish and chips. It's actually for everyone that has a food business to sell more fish and chips. Have I got that right?
Yes, it's an awareness day to get more consumers thinking fish and chips.
But because most fish and chip shops would see it, though, as National Fish and Chip, and then in brackets, Shop Day. Do you get?
I get that, and I do get that, because it's the forefront of their unique business. But the bigger picture is fish and chips, full stop. So I know that some people get heavily engaged, don't they? Some people get heavily engaged and dress up their shops, and some people kind of don't do anything because it doesn't make any difference to them. I'd say, as a minimum, you should get the logo out on social media and let people know.
Yeah, at the very
communicate with. That should be the minimum you do. No one's asking you to dress up your shop if you don't want to. No one's certainly asking you to do special offers or deals or anything like that. Play it as you want.
So, because many fish and chip shops, many, it's probably a small minority, but many complain that the dates and they always say, June isn't very good because the chips aren't very good quality. And your thoughts, when you get feedback like that, what's your thought process? How do you absorb that message?
Yeah, well, we have done and we have thought about it. And again, they're right in some ways when they say, I want to deliver the best product I can. But, you'll never please everybody with timings. And that June, we think, works for people being out and about, going to the seaside, all stuff like that. It's just a date that kind of resonates. It's in the centre of the year. It's away from everything else. No matter where you put it, some shop will want it on a different day for whatever reason.
I think that is always we've held events. You guys plan many events throughout the year, so I do understand that sentiment. But I think that from their point of view, just looking at sort of the collective minority voice, is that June half term is either already really busy because it's a half term. So if you're in a seasonal area like Whitby or Bournemouth or any coast, I guess, in the UK, you're going to be rammed anyway. So they're not seeing any benefit of that. And then inland shops that are quiet, let's say Leicester and Eton, shops in sort of away from the seaside. So let's Birmingham, West Midlands, East Midlands, they're thinking, well, I'm dead anyway because customers are all abroad or they're all at the seaside places. So no one's sort of, in their mind, those that have a bad day would say, well, we're not seeing any of this because we're either really busy or we're bloody dead. So, and I think then if you pair that with the sort of bad time of year for chips, I think most people would just see, why not just see it at the other end of the year, let's say September-ish for argument's sake. And also, why not choose a day in the week that gives the consumer a bite of the cherry twice? So maybe I'm thinking of this wrong, but if it was on a Thursday or a Tuesday, well, let's say Tuesday more than a Thursday. If it was on a Tuesday, you could argue that someone's probably eating fish and chips twice that week instead of once, because they were going to eat fish and chips on a Friday. Or have I got the wrong end of the stick?
Well, no. All these points have been all these points have been brought up.
Yeah.
Just on tracking it back though to the point you made about moving a day. The consumers, my dad, me, it's Fish and Chip Friday. That's why it's on the Friday. So moving it to Tuesday, that means we're actually moving it for the shops, not for the consumer, because consumer would be Fish and Chip Friday. So that would be the first point. The next bit, just quickly on this year, it is moved to a Thursday this year, of course, because of D-Day. D-Day 80. It's going to be, hopefully, I think it's a great opportunity to pull the both together. And I really am excited for how that could work this year. So we shall see. I mean, they'll probably say, well, we were going to be busy anyway because of lots of flags up and D-Day and everything on the Friday anyway. But yeah, it has been moved slightly this year, and there's plenty going on all around with a military theme as well. Just on what the National Fish and Chip Day is about through Neoda, where there's a visit to the Portsmouth Naval Base. We've got Horsey Island, National Army Museum in Chelsea, RAF in Cosford, and we're looking at probably trying to get HMS Belfast in London as well. So there's all of that kind of coming on behind the scenes, just to really push brand fish and chips and tag onto that military thing this year. And there's also, if shops do want to go, if they go to the Neoda website, there is a shop button there where they can buy merchandise and it's open. The ones that do want to get involved and dress your shop and stuff, that option's there.
Yeah. No, I'm not trying to be negative. I just think these are things, these are just regular things that people sort of talk about. And I think the same was said before about National Chip Week. People felt that date wasn't right. And I just think sometimes people think that their voice isn't being heard. So I thought it'd be a shame to have this conversation and not bring it up, because just at least you can explain some of the reasons behind the thought processes.
Yeah, of course.
I just think it's one of those things that, you are never going to find a date that suits everybody. But I think it'd be good if it was just explained to people why.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So also but basically the whole point though, before we move on though, is that, like you said, you'd like everybody to get involved, even if it is just sharing a social media post and, using the, the logos and so on, because, well, why not? That is the least thing you can do to get involved.
Yeah, look, I think so. There's no better way to sort of engage. We need reasons to engage with public, and social media is one of the strongest tools now.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about the industry and the demographic, would you say that most fish and chip shop goers are 35 plus, maybe even 45 in age?
I don't see a lot of that data, if I'm honest, because I don't mean I don't recognise it. I just don't see a lot of the data, because obviously a lot of things I do is dealing with fish and chip shop owners. But I guess one sentiment I hear is that the younger generation haven't come through yet. So yeah, you could probably say that. Yeah.
So that's our feeling. I mean, you don't, apart from maybe at lunchtime if your shop's near a school or something like that. But if you go on a Thursday or Friday evening, I'd imagine if you stood in a fish and chip shop, or most of them, you wouldn't get too many 20-year-olds to 25. And I've got a 20-year-old, and I don't think she'd go to a fish and chip shop yet unless it's with me. So when you look at that area, it gives you an opportunity to engage, and also an opportunity to talk about your products.
Yeah.
Now, tag on sustainability, tag on healthier option. People now, certainly the younger generation, they've got more awareness of health. We were having the climate and carbon footprint pushed down ourselves all the time, aren't we? And sustainability. The awareness is there. I'm not saying everybody acts on it, but there is certainly an awareness. So this is another message. If we want to communicate and educate, fish is a great option.
Yeah.
And under fish, let's lean on fish and chip shops. So as fish and chip shop owners, we need to educate the next generation that if they are going to move away from meat, fish is the best option because of its protein values, high in omega-3. It's versatile. Okay, we want it as fried, but there's restaurants there that do grills and all those other options. And then, that introduces them to other seafood as well. Because when you go to a fish and chip shop, somebody might favour scampi or something else, but it's trying to get them there. And we've got a great tool. If we take kids nowadays, they are so engrossed in their phones. It's a great marketing tool. You've got almost like 24-hour marketing to them with your messaging. So if you can educate and message regular, they're our next generation, because as the 70s and 80s and 60s, as evolution moves on and a generation dies off, how do people naturally just fall into fish and chip shops?
Yeah. Or
have they done in the past because of what's happened previous generations? And my question is that will that continue? Because if it don't, in 40 years' time, there won't be any chip shops. Now, I don't think that'll be the case. But here's an opportunity here to engage and educate, and maybe even get into schools and that, I think, with fish as an option.
Yeah, makes sense. I agree with you. I don't think fish and chips is less popular to the younger generation. I think that, my kids like it, and had nothing to do with me. I'm out selling to shops. My in-laws and my parents got them more involved in it. And I think it is a tradition that will carry on. But I do think that you can't also sit there and just assume it's going to carry on. Hence why there is this big push, because you need to sort of assume the worst and plan for the best.
Yeah. I mean, kids nowadays are used to online ordering. They're used to apps. They're used to all of this, and they're certainly used to social media. That's a way to sort of go and engage and get with them. again, my two, brilliant. They love fish and chips when I go and get it. You know?
Yeah, but that's just because you're paying for it, Reece.
Well, there is that as well, probably. Yeah, that's probably high on the list as it goes. Who's paying for it?
And you're going to get it, which means you're technically their Uber driver.
I mean, it is, but you know, the message is it's a great value, wholesome meal, which is sustainable, made with natural products. It really is. It is probably up there, one of the best out there on fat content and everything, Stelios. I mean, you've done analytics and all that, haven't you, for fat content, and I know many shops have, and it's one of the lowest out there.
Yeah. I just think we need to just reinforce the fact that it is the best food option, and I mean the tastiest, the best. It's a guilty pleasure. It's everything. You can eat it in the winter when you feel cold. Eat it in the summer when you're at the beach. It is correct. It is the ideal food product, and I think that's the key message. You know, I don't get me wrong. You know, I get what you're saying about being, you know, the healthiest and all that, but I actually think when people are buying their Domino's and they're buying the KFCs, they're not thinking about dieting. I think they're just thinking about pleasure, and I think I think we're at the top of that list too, to be honest, because you know it is a great product.
I agree.
Yeah. So moving on. Because we're coming to the end of this thing, I wanted to just touch on some of the things at the end of the podcast because I think it keeps in people's memory. You guys run the event side of the business. Just tell us what events that you've got going on this year and how people can jump on and support them.
Yeah, sure. We've, June the 9th, just after National Fish and Chip Day, Sunday, June the 9th at Sandown Park, we're running an event with Tea Quality. There will be 70, 80 stands there. There will be options to save on your everyday goods. We're giving away great prize through P100, £2,800 new Merlin Maestro filter machine. There are 25 boxes of plus 20 oil. That's in addition to other offers that we're going to be running. So entry's free, parking's free, and looking forward to a really, really good show.
Where is it, Reece?
Sandown Park. Racecourse in Surrey.
Nice.
And you can pre-register for tickets on our website. If you go to frymagazine.com and then click on exhibition, it will take you to visitors area. And you can just register for tickets there. And
obviously, the more people that turn up, obviously it helps Tea Quality, but it also supports the hard work that you guys do at Fry, doesn't it?
It does. It helps you engage with people, pick up on maybe new technologies at other services. And if you get there and make it a success, you're quite right. It works and reflects on everybody. And after, the lockdown and shows missing that human element, that contact, that laugh, that being looked after, that personal touch, I think it's so valuable.
Yeah, I remember before COVID, me and you would have long discussions about digital events and thinking that was probably the future. And then COVID came, and I think then we thought, no, we want to get back out there again and see people. It's changed everyone's perspective, hasn't it, to some degree?
Yeah, I think so. When COVID happened, I found it particularly hard. When everything was taken from you, and I had it easier than most that had young kids trying to educate them, but I never realised how much I did in the industry until it was taken away. So supplier trade shows, gone. Neoda meetings, gone. Social events and black tie events, gone. National Fish and Chip Awards went, didn't it? Gone. And all of a sudden, you're in the confines of your own house, and it was really, really tough.
Yeah. Really
tough. And when I looked at it, I was doing about 12 events or meetings through Neoda. There's social events, so either Neoda, exhibitions, golf days, about 12 events a year. That was my that was my whole social life, really, without me knowing it. And it's just so good to be back to where we are now.
Yeah.
And it'd be great to have shops supporting it and come along and pick up on ideas of other shops and see what's out there at the moment.
Yeah.
Because there is the normal regular stuff there, but there's always a dozen or so new stands or new services or services that are local to that region.
Yeah.
So it's worth a visit.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Reece, thanks for your time today, mate. You've been an absolute star.
Stelios, thank you so much for having me on, and I really appreciate it.